Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have Matt from alternative metal band Chemical Empire.
Whoa! What's up?
I just wanted to start out by digging in some history. What got you into music?
Hmm. Music then. I've been a rocker since I was a kid, like a kid. Uh, I I'm old. I don't look old, but I'm old. I'm in my 40s. So I grew up in the 80s, and when Metallica first, well, I say when it first came out, they first started coming out with albums. Is probably about the year I was born. I believe 82. Although I'm not sure when Kill 'Em All dropped, 81, 82. But anyways, Black Album, when that dropped, that's what really turned me on to music. And then around that time, Nirvana, when they dropped their album, the one that blew them up, I forgot what it's called.
Never mind.
I'm dumb right now. Never mind. Forget it. Just kidding. Yeah. So, but I also grew up on like bands like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, those kind of things. Um, I was a big gamer, growing up, and then I spent all my time playing games. When I turned 15, I think my parents had had enough, and my dad got me a guitar and was like, "Do this instead." So I didn't know what I was going to do with that thing, but at some point, somebody came by and showed me how to play a couple songs I liked on there. Um, I think it was either some Tool or some like Marilyn Manson or something. And when I realized that it could do that, that's when I just started really, really getting into it. And then the rest is history. I've just been doing this for like 20 plus years now.
Who would you describe as some of your musical influences?
Probably a lot of them that I just mentioned right there. I can tell you, like, though, there's been some that have really made the impact on me. I remember when the band Godsmack came out. It was sort of like not so much the first album, because the first album dropped, I really liked it. When the second album dropped, Awake, that one was like nothing else that was coming out at that time, and that for some reason, it was like a mix between seeing them in concert and that album dropping, and just like the height of my excitement. That's when I was like, okay, this can be fun. Like you not just listen to music, not just play guitar, but like start writing songs. I think that album's the one that made me want to like write songs. It was just really dark and gritty and like heavy and a lot of like anger and feels in it. I love that. It was so like you know a lot of music that drops like today. I mean, there's a lot of good music that drops like now, but compared to the music that had dropped back in like the late '90s, mid to late '90s, early 2000s, like there was just something special about it, like something in the water or something, where everybody was just pumping out these like huge songs, and they like every song was like unique and it had its own thing going. Like, I mean, there's a lot of bands I can name, but the post grunge bands, the Seattle, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. I love Soundgarden. I really love Soundgarden. those types. Alice in Chains were all big influence on me. So it's a mix of everything.
Okay. Can you tell me how Chemical Empire formed?
So Chemical Empire is me. So it's sort of like a solo project. I've always been doing. I've always been writing. I've never stopped writing like continuously. I've had kids, so there's been obviously periods in my life where I've had to kind of step away. Short lived, but still. Um, but in some way, shape, or form, I'm coming up with music, and uh, when I was finally able to get back into it, and I had played with bands before, but it's always been really hard to click with people or be allowed to kind of take creative control of what I want to do as far as writing, because in a lot of the projects I've been in, they don't work on music as much as I do. So, come the next session, I have all this material and they don't have anything new, but they would be, upset that I was doing all this writing without them. It's like, well, that's all I want to do is write music. So it was, kind of some clash with that. And after a while, like, I'm like, all right, well, I gotta start doing things on my own. And I did a Dead Echoes project where I did all the music myself, and then I outsourced the vocals, and then I did a whole album as that. But then the same sort of thing. Not so much because he was really great. Like I love that guy, Brian. But he has things he has to commit to as well. So it's like, okay, now my songs are being held hostage by someone else's availability. It came to the point where I'm like, if I want to release music as fast as I can make it, I have to kind of do it myself. And so I got the courage to step up to the microphone, which was the missing piece, and somehow it ended up working out. Or I'm told it works out. I'm still skeptical, but you know, they say it's okay, so go with it.
Now, how did you come up with the name?
The one I wanted to use was taken. No. Dead Echoes. I really liked that name. That meant something. Dead Echoes is like the reflection of what you wanted to be versus what you ended up being. So when it comes back to you, it's something else. You're Dead Echoes. But the only thing was I wasn't singing on there, and I didn't want to do a continuation of that with like a whole new voice, or even because then I feel like I'm up against Brian, and he had a great voice, like amazing singer, better than me. So I didn't want to do that, and so I was like, all right, well, what else? Where am I at in my life now? Because Dead Echoes, it was like a more like sad time. Like there's a lot of bad stuff happening in my life, and that's what that album was about. So this, I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of out of that box, and I can focus on everything else that's happening. And so, the main thing is like, okay, like I'm a stronger person than I was then. There's a lot more of me. And what my takeaway was from the whole situation was that I'm going to be myself, love myself, never uh, flex for anyone, and that's sort of what the basis is for the Chemical Empire, the whole like theme so far, and it's fluid, so it could change, But right now is what it is, and Chemical Empire to me, I don't want to put like too much thought into it. It's up for interpretation, obviously, but it's kind of a when you think about the way the world is right now, the way that everybody has to fall into a pocket and conform, and I think people are really like there's a lot of depression out there and a lot of sad people or stressed out people, and I think it has to do with a lot of people are afraid to be themselves, you know, and so that's what the whole empire is that the chemical part comes from like what some of us like when we look into like go down the rabbit hole of the conspiracies of how they put stuff in our food and all the plastics and everything that kind of they say controls us. It's all part of the conforming. So the chemical empire is like the box they want to put us in to conform a certain way, and by doing so, we lose touch of who we really are, and that's what this is about.
Okay. What city are you based out of?
Toledo. I said it like I'm like it. Woo, Toledo. But it's really just Toledo.
Now, what's the music scene like out there?
I don't want to say it's non-existent because I don't pay attention to it a lot, but it's because I don't hear about it much. And I'm friends with a lot of people who are in vocal bands, but they're not really doing much. I mean, there's a song that might drop here and there, and a couple of them will play a show here or there, but nothing big. They're definitely not doing what they used to be doing. When I used to go out to the Toledo local scene back in the early 2000s, we're talking like all the bands were teaming up and doing shows together and promoting together, and Evan, it was like a big brotherhood, and you don't see that sort of thing anymore, and it's a pity, kind of. I think that the way that the music industry went made it like this survivalist mentality, and you're fighting for your meal, I guess, the way that nobody's really getting paid either, and I mean, it sucks. Pretty much at this point, you're doing the music because you either love it. That's it. You're doing it because you love it, or you are, going down the wrong path. Because there's, I don't see like a wealth or anything, or even if somebody's making a living off of it, it's going to be pretty tough. And I've had some friends who are like in some bigger signed bands who work full time day jobs too. So seeing that was like an eye opener. So lucky for me, like I do work my day job, and I make my money outside of music. So for me, I can do this at my leisure, but I enjoy doing it so much that I can also like make it a full time thing with minimal risk.
Okay. Um, I wanted to talk about your song Cold Wave. And the thing that really like stuck out to me was like the guitar riff at the beginning. It's like it's really simple, but it sticks in your head. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How you created it and stuff like that?
So every song has its own story. Um, I I I very rarely will put together a piece of music that isn't telling some kind of story about what I'm going through at any point, or some kind of perspective that I'm having. It's all real time events, right? And with Cold Wave is about a time where I was going through some depression, like some like real shit. Like I was the kind of person who was always like, ah, it's all in your mind, it's all in your mind. And when I actually like, went through it, and I'm thinking like, man, like I'm having these dark thoughts. Like I'm having this like hard time getting motivated to do anything. Like this shit's real. Like boom, it clicked. Right? So when I'm writing a song about battling your own depression, I'm like, okay, well, it's gonna have this like aggressive feel to it. It's gotta have this like dark grit to it, and for me that like main riff, that wham 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 wham, wow, and then the way the drums go, it's kind of like a to me it's kind of like feels like you're getting hyped for like battle, you know what I mean? That's like my battle riff. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's I love making songs. I don't use like any sort of template or any like kind of guide or base my song off of anything that's out there. In fact, when I write, I try not to listen to a lot of other music that's outside of my own, just because I don't want to take in anybody else's sound or be influenced the wrong way, or even unknowingly, where like a part of somebody's song might fall into mine, which it happens a lot, to anybody. Um, but yeah, I when I put these songs together, and sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it takes over a year, and it's not because I'm a shit writer. I mean, I could be, but it's because I only write onto the song when I'm like tuned into it. So I could be like halfway through a song and then something changes, in my day to day. And now I'm not in tune to this song. So I might hop into a couple other songs. And I always have like, 10 to 15 songs going at the same time, which is like what I do right now. So I have like an album's worth I have like a couple albums worth of songs that are like just so close to being finished, but it's like if it doesn't sound like perfect, or it's not going to do justice to what I'm trying to say. I'm just not going to just finish it for the sake of finishing it. So things move a little bit slower, even though I write more. I just jump around.
I know you want me to break. I'm overcome with your hate. I wanna feel so alive, but when I open my eyes, I know I can't see the light, cause I'm so dead inside. I hate how my life has changed, but looking for a way that I can start again. Trying to find a peace that I cannot obtain. I wanna take my own life just to stop the pain. My hope works dry, I've numbered my days. Could somebody please take this knife from my veins? I fight with the monsters inside of my brain. I've been trying to push back, but it feels like a cold wave when I'm barely awake. Infecting me with all that you are. It hits me like a freight train. I'm standing right in the way. Your world has left me holding these scars.
Now, do you like record at your house?
Yes, I do. I so I the process for me, and I just made a video showing like this video that will come out in a little while. I don't know whenever I get around to it, but I had a day off, and so I was like, all right, maybe today I'll actually start a brand new, fresh song without anything driving it and see what I come up with. And that was the basis of the video to see if I could pull it off, which I did pretty good. Um, and it shows like how I do it, and I'll do the song a couple times. The first time I'm just throwing together some drums, some guitars, and then like for vocals, since I don't have words, and it takes a little bit longer to track the vocals, I use a piano. So I just play the notes of how the vocal patterns will go, and then I'm like, okay, I just keep refining it. So I end up re-recording all the parts multiple times, and then when I get like to where it's like, okay, this is how the song's gonna be, then I go into professional recording mode where I have some pretty like good gear. So I get it all tuned in and the way that I'm going to do it. And then, but it's easy because the guitars, I go for the DIs. I record, like I record through an Axe effects, and then I also send DIs into like a amp sim or whatever they're calling them now. But it only really matters because when I send it to the studio, then to be mixed, mastered, and sometimes a little bit more produced, I'm only sending the DIs, but I have a demo that I put together in here for reference. So I put the song together in full for them to know, what it's supposed to sound like, and then I deconstruct it down to the base of it, and then send them all the little pieces and go from there. But yeah, I do all the drums, bass, guitars, vocals, synths, programming, all that here.
Okay, so you send it to them like raw without like any effects or anything on it.
Right. Yep. So if you play the file, it's just the clean strumming guitar. Yep.
And then they add everything in the studio and mix and master it.
Yep. And then so yeah. So I'll leave them notes on the track name like, okay, this vocal, I want like the radio effect. This vocal should have a lot of reverb. You know, this is my lead guitar. This is my rhythm guitar. This one should be a little bit louder. You know, and then I have what is it? Neural DSP. They make the like Gojira plugin for guitar amps or whatever. So if I find something cool, I have my own presets that I make. I tune them in and then I send those over too because I know that he uses that same program. So if I'm like if I'm loving a certain amp tone, he'll take mine and put it on there. Otherwise, he has some that he likes. He doesn't reamp. I know a lot of guys um, that do these will reamp if I want them to, which I like reamp because I like the sound of like a tube amp mic'd up. It's a lot, a lot more dimensional than these amp sims, though they're very good, but they all start to sound the same. Like when on every song, like once you tune in to your sound, it ends up on every song and everything sounds the same. But when you go into recording an actual amp, there's a lot of magic that can happen, a lot of sounds that come out of it, and things that you can't clean up and get rid of. So there's a lot more to it. A lot of little like little flaws and stuff actually are the characteristics that make songs shine, I think.
What do you have planned for this year?
So I'm working on the album. Um, I guess I have more than enough songs for it. It's just a matter of finishing the last little pieces and get into the studio. But also, all right, right now I'm kind of in this like, my problem right now is figuring out which ones are going to make the cut, if some of them are even going to make any cut, if some of them would make a second album. Because I mean, like honestly, I have hundreds of songs, like waiting for something to happen to them. But you know, uh, they say the songs I have out now are pretty good. I'll take their word for it. But that's three good songs, and then there had to be like what 10 or 15 not so good songs for those ones to come to life. So it's a matter of like sorting through which ones are the good ones, which ones aren't. That takes a lot of time, but I wanted to have an album out this year. It's kind of what I'm trying to pace for. I think I'm at the point now where I should be able to bop out the last few songs back to back to back. But hopefully, and that's not just me. That's the on the studio end. They have to be able to get them done just as fast as I send them, and sometimes it takes a little too long. So
Okay. So you're gonna release a couple more singles, or you just gonna drop the album, or how's that work?
I'm gonna keep releasing songs. uh, Whether the album gets to, even if I have to release like every song from the album, making an album or whatever, just depending on how long it is, my only commitment that I'm trying to not totally break is releasing a new song every like 6 to 8 weeks. So there's three down. The next one will drop on March 27th. It's not a Friday, but it's my son's birthday, and that was like his favorite song when I was originally writing it. So I'm just gonna drop it on that day. That one's not as let's say it's not as like heavy. It's not as like the first three songs kind of really like you know what I mean? This one's more like it's about the tone, it's about the atmosphere. It's a little bit more brought down, but it still like has some drive to it. So I don't want to like spoil it too much. So yeah, so it may or may not be a banger. I don't know. I don't know, just based on what they say. But it's a good one. It's a good one. So that one will be next. That's called Sabotage. Nobody knew that. You're the first one to hear that. So
Awesome. Um, how can we get a hold of you? Facebook, Instagram?
all of them, I float around. The website you can go to, chemicalempire.com, that's like the link tree. So it has all the socials on there. Also, when new songs are coming out, I put it on there. It's a real basic, like bullshit looking page, like minimal effort. But it does what it's gonna do. I don't have, I'm one person. I do all the graphics, I do all the music, I do all the posting, like everything. So I don't have time to perfect it all. So I'm just doing what I feel is important, and it's about the music. So I know I should have like a nice page or whatever, but I think as long as it's easy to see where the links are, I think everybody should forgive me a little bit for that.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thanks for coming on the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I like round numbers, and I almost had 100 followers on Spotify. It's not a lot, but I like round numbers. So once I hit 100, I'll be kind of happy. It's like a milestone, right? It's a milestone. Like I said, low numbers now. It just takes time and consistency to hit that growth. So I'm patient. And I'm not really like bent out of shape about it. But if anybody watching likes the music, sharing and following and all those things really helps. And I'm definitely thankful for it and appreciative. And yeah, that's it.
My body's lying awake.